And that sound means it is time for professional football. That's right, we are back. American Football News now has 2 segments. Please check out our college football segment. This is the NFL. Okay, so we just completed week number 8 in the NFL, and we had a few surprises and a few shakeups and a few trades that happened this past week. A rundown of a couple games that were a little bit more standoutish than the others, if there ever was such a word. London, England was yet again the host of another NFL game. Wembley Stadium, to be specific, watched the Philadelphia Eagles and the Jacksonville Jaguars this past Sunday. The Super Bowl champions finally looking like their old selves, basically running house on the Jaguars, who have at this point underperformed dramatically compared to last season. The Eagles come back on top and go back to their winning ways, beating Jacksonville 24-18. Another game that we took a look at and kept a close eye on this past Sunday was actually not that bad of a game. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers traveled to Cincinnati to take on Andy Dalton and the Bengals. Ryan Fitzpatrick being benched in favor of Jameis Winston. However, Winston throws 4 picks, and they have no choice but to insert Ryan Fitzpatrick back into the lineup. And that's when things became interesting. Fitzmagic once again took over. He drives the team down the field and ties the game up with less than a minute left. However, Andy Dalton and the Bengals weren't going to let Fitzpatrick and the Buccaneers walk into their own stadium and walk out with a win. They drive down the field themselves and kick a field goal in the closing seconds to win the game 37-34. Another game that we kept an eye on this past weekend was the Kansas City Chiefs and the Denver Broncos. Kansas City playing very, very well right now, especially with quarterback Patrick Mahomes calling the shots. Mahomes having another great day behind center, throwing for 303 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 1 interception. This was simply too much to overcome for the Denver Broncos, who themselves had a fairly good day, scoring 14 points in the first half, but only able to muster another 9 in the fourth quarter. Kansas City improves to 7-1 and remains first in the AFC West after beating the Denver Broncos 30-23. Another game that we kept an eye on this past week was another closer game. However, it only featured one team that is any good, and that would be the Washington Redskins taking on the New York Giants. The Giants just can't buy any sort of win this year, only putting up 1 victory so far in their last 8 games. They sit at 1-7 on the year and in last place in the NFC East. The Redskins, on the other hand, on the totally opposite side of the spectrum, 5-2 on the year and first in the NFC East. They really took it to Big Blue this past weekend and ended up winning 20-13. Pittsburgh and Cleveland played another game this weekend, and this is one of those instances where there was a shakeup at the end of the game. Cleveland potentially sitting with a winning record at this point in the year. However, they have woefully underperformed, going to overtime and losing on several instances this past season, finishing with a tie. And at the end of the day, they only have 2 wins for 2018, which is 2 more than last year. But again, this is a team that could potentially be 4-3 or 3-4. They took on Ben Roethlisberger and the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have really turned around their season since the beginning of the year, claiming that number 1 spot in the NFC North and really getting past the whole running back controversy with Le'Veon Bell, who continues to hold out and will probably not be available for the rest of the year, demanding more money. However, they have found a running back that has surprised and even surpassed their expectations this year. Running back James Conner has just been an absolute monster this year and has burst onto the scene, solidifying himself as the go-to running back if, in fact, Le'Veon Bell does decide to leave and not renew his contract with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Conner having 146 rushing yards, 66 receiving yards, and put up 2 touchdowns this past weekend against a lackluster performance by Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns, who fall to 2-5-1 on the year, while Pittsburgh improves to 4-2-1. Following this game, Cleveland fired their head coach in an effort to try to reboot or revamp the season. The season not completely lost yet, but becoming increasingly difficult for the Browns to make that postseason run. We wish the world to former head coach of the Cleveland Browns and that he finds green fields in the near future. Another game that was a bit of a surpriser this past weekend, the Carolina Panthers took on the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens, the second best team, in my opinion, in the AFC North, despite their 4-4 record. This is a team that I feel can handle the Cincinnati Bengals and will eventually surpass them at some point in time in the season. Baltimore, a tough test this next week, having to take on the Pittsburgh Steelers. They came out on top the last time they faced Big Ben and crew, but that was a much different Steelers team. Do not look for any of the same this next Sunday. However, we take a look back to the Carolina-Baltimore matchup this past Sunday. The Carolina Panthers playing very, very well right now, sitting at number 2 in the NFC South behind Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints. Cam Newton having a decent day, 52 yards rushing, 219 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. Definitely helps the Panthers bid at a postseason run later on this year. The Panthers came out on top of the Ravens 36-21. The Los Angeles Rams remain undefeated and are still the NFL's only undefeated team, having to play Green Bay this past Sunday. Aaron Rodgers looking like his old self, absolutely tearing up the Rams whenever possible, having a total of 286 yards passing on the day. Rodgers was in line to have an opportunity to seal the win late in the game. However, Ty Montgomery, the former Green Bay Packers running back, ignoring coach orders and going against his quarterback's decisions, tries to be the hero and lead the Packers to victory. However, his decision ended up costing the Packers the victory. Todd Gurley and the Rams remain undefeated on the year and improved to 8-0, first in the NFC West, and were able to beat the upstart Green Bay Packers this past Sunday 29-27. Montgomery, since his decision has been traded, and is no longer a member of the Green Bay Packers. Another close game featured 2 terrible teams, but again is worth mentioning. The Arizona Cardinals took on the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers just as bad as the New York Giants, sitting at 1-7 on the year. Arizona not faring much better, sitting at 2-6 on the year. This was a little bit of a slugfest of a game. However, both teams woefully underperformed. Most of this game being field goals and a safety. Arizona came out on top to get their second win of the year, 18-15. Sunday Night Football had the all the implications of having a classic match. However, that wasn't what happened. The Minnesota Vikings were looking to improve their record and hold on to their grasp in the NFC North. However, Drew Brees and the red-hot New Orleans Saints decided that that wasn't actually going to happen. Drew Brees came into this game having set many NFL records and breaking one last weekend. He did not disappoint. Not throwing for anything particularly deep, but throwing for things that he knew was going to work for them. Kirk Cousins, on the other hand, willing to do a little bit more than that and take a few more risks. However, it never paid out for him. The Vikings ended up falling flat on their face, and the New Orleans Saints were able to pick up the easy win, 30-20. And the NFL concluded this past week with Monday Night Football, featuring the New England Patriots taking on the Buffalo Bills. This was a game that, unless you're a Patriots fan, nobody in the country really wanted to see because they already knew what the results were going to be. New England taking it to Buffalo early and often and never really letting up on the gas pedal. Buffalo sitting at 2-6 and in last place in the AFC East. New England 6-2, first in the AFC East, and it kind of makes you wonder if that loss to the Lions earlier this year was a little bit more than a fluke. The Lions themselves losing this past weekend and really dashing any hopes of making a solid playoff run. The Lions were able to get rid of Golden Tate for a third-round draft pick. But again, we're not here to talk about the Detroit Lions. We're simply recapping the New England-Buffalo game, which, again, was lackluster at best, unless you were a Patriots fan, in which you loved every moment of it. New England comes out on top and remains in first in the AFC East, 25-6. And we have a lot of games this next week that are going to be quite intriguing in the NFL, and three in particular that will be broadcast on national TV and will be highly sought after. We will kick off things tomorrow, November 1st, with our Thursday night game, which features, once again, two teams that, unless you're a fan of them, nobody really cares about in 2018. The Oakland Raiders will take on the San Francisco 49ers. Thursday, November 1st, kickoff is scheduled for 8:20 p.m., and you can catch that game on Fox or the NFL Network. We are predicting the Oakland Raiders to win. However, I wouldn't be surprised if neither team won and they played to a tie. Both teams with only one win on the year. The Sunday night football matchup is an intriguing one. The Green Bay Packers will take on the New England Patriots. Aaron Rodgers, one of the few quarterbacks that seems to have relative success against Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. This game is scheduled for Sunday, November 4th, with an 8:20 kickoff time, and can be caught on NBC. However, despite the fact that the Green Bay Packers have Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady is playing way too good right now to let this game slip by him. It is our prediction that the Patriots will beat the Packers and improve to 7-2 on the year. And week number 9 will end next Monday, and will feature two teams that had bye weeks this past week. The Tennessee Titans will take on the Dallas Cowboys Monday, November 5th. Kickoff scheduled for 8:15 p.m. This game can be caught on ESPN. This game is pretty even on the line. Both teams sitting at 3-4. Both teams underperforming at this point in time. But it is our prediction that the Titans will walk into Big D and will walk out with a W. All right, time is winding down here. We have 10 seconds left. Be sure to check out our college football show, and be sure to check us out on YouTube.com, SoundCloud, or Tumblr.